In the winter of 1959, 9 experienced hikers set out on an expedition that would become one of the most disturbing mysteries in modern history. They were young, strong, and highly trained, students and adventurers from the Ural Polytechnic Institute in the Soviet Union. Each of them had survived difficult mountain journeys before. This trip was meant to be challenging, but nothing they couldn't handle. Their destination was a remote mountain range deep within the northern Ural Mountains, a vast wilderness of snow, ice, and endless silence, a place where temperatures could drop far below freezing and storms could appear without warning. The group was led by Igor Dyatlov, a respected and experienced mountaineer. He carefully planned the route, ensuring they had enough food, equipment, and supplies for the journey. Before leaving, they promised to send a message once they returned, but that message would never come. At first, everything went according to plan. Recovered photographs later showed the hikers smiling, laughing, and trekking through deep snow. They built fires, set up camp, and appeared confident in their abilities. As they moved deeper into the mountains, conditions grew harsher. Strong winds swept across the slopes. Snowstorms reduced visibility. Temperatures plunged far below freezing. Still, they pressed on. On February 1st, 1959, the group reached the eastern slope of a remote mountain known as Kalatsit. In the language of the local Mansi people, the name meant something unsettling: Mountain of the Dead. That evening, they decided to set up camp on the exposed slope instead of moving into the shelter of the forest below. Why they made this decision remains one of many unanswered questions. They pitched their tent against the harsh wind, secured it in the snow, and prepared for the night. It was the last time they would be seen alive. Weeks passed with no word from the hikers. When they failed to return on schedule, concern began to grow. Search teams were eventually sent into the mountains to find them. What they discovered would shock even the most experienced investigators. After days of searching, rescuers located the group's tent, partially buried in snow. At first glance, it appeared abandoned, but as they moved closer, they noticed something deeply disturbing. The tent had been cut open from the inside. Personal belongings, boots, and warm clothing were still inside. It looked as though the hikers had fled suddenly, without time to dress properly. Outside, in the deep snow, footprints led away from the tent. Investigators followed the tracks down the slope. They showed that the hikers had left calmly, not running, but walking into the freezing darkness, barefoot or wearing only socks. Why would experienced mountaineers leave the safety of their tent in sub-zero temperatures? The footprints led toward a nearby forest. Beneath a large cedar tree, searchers found the first 2 bodies. They were lying near the remains of a small fire. Both were dressed only in underwear. Their hands were burned, as if they had tried desperately to keep warm. Branches of the tree above were broken, suggesting one of them had climbed high, perhaps trying to see something in the distance. Further into the forest, more bodies were discovered. Some appeared to have attempted to return to the tent but collapsed from exhaustion and hypothermia. Months later, when the snow finally began to melt, the remaining bodies were found in a ravine nearby. And this is where the mystery deepened. Several of the hikers had suffered severe internal injuries, broken ribs, crushed skulls. Yet their skin showed little external damage, as if the force that struck them had been incredibly powerful, but left almost no visible marks. One victim was missing her tongue, others were missing eyes. Some of their clothing showed traces of radiation. The official investigation concluded that the hikers died due to what was described only as a compelling natural force. No further explanation was given. The case was quietly closed. But questions remained. Why did they leave the tent in the middle of the night? What could have frightened 9 experienced hikers enough to flee into deadly cold without proper clothing? What caused the severe internal injuries found on some of the bodies? And why were traces of radiation detected on their clothes? Over the decades, countless theories have emerged. Some believe an avalanche forced them out of the tent. Others suggest a secret military weapons test in the area may have caused panic and fatal injuries. There are theories involving infrasound, a natural phenomenon that can create intense fear and disorientation. Some even speculate about encounters with unknown creatures or unexplained lights seen in the sky by nearby witnesses. Yet none of these theories fully explain what happened that night. The Soviet government sealed many of the original files. Access to the area was restricted for years. When the case was finally reopened decades later, modern investigators attempted to reconstruct the events. But even with new technology and research, the full truth remains elusive. The Dyatlov Pass incident stands as one of the most chilling unsolved mysteries of the modern era. 9 skilled hikers entered the mountains together. None of them returned. Their final moments remain frozen in time, scattered across a silent, snow-covered slope on the Mountain of the Dead. More than 60 years later, the question still lingers. What happened on that mountain, and what could possibly have terrified them enough to abandon everything and run into the darkness? Somewhere in the frozen wilderness of the Ural Mountains, the answer may still lie buried beneath the snow.